So this is something that comes up a lot, and has been coming up for decades at this stage. Does Georgia, Florida belong in Jacksonville? I think the short answer is it always has. The question now is, what will the future be? And we're at the point now. Georgia will play the Gators this week in Jacksonville, where it's Georgia. It's the traditional home of this game. And in 2019, Georgia, Florida, and Jacksonville all agreed to play the game through 2023 in Jacksonville, and there's an option to keep the game in the state, excuse me, in Jacksonville through 2025. I think the city has the option to keep it through 2025, but I'm not 100% about that part. And the big thing with the deal, like for instance, this year Georgia will get $4.5 million to play, just to play this game. And that's not nothing. That's about half of Kirby's salary. So that's something to keep in mind when you start talking about this game. For me, this game has always, I did not go to this game when it was in Gainesville or Athens, actually. So I've only ever experienced this game in Jacksonville. There's been a lot of improvements. I will say, in my opinion, there's still a lot of improvements to be made. It's gotten better. It's still a mess in many ways. But I do want to just say real quick, uh, picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today is a great way to get ready for the holidays. They are right around the corner. I can promise you that. If you want to grab the book, you get the shirt for free. The only caveat with that is you have to email me, dean@dogpost.com, after you have ordered, and I send the books out quickly. So please take advantage of this right now. The link is down below. Um, this game is what defines the season for both Georgia and Florida. You talk to enough old Florida folks, and I guess new Florida folks, I don't know, but this is the pivotal game for the Gators in the season. I can assure you, I can speak with authority that this is Georgia's biggest game every single year, period. And you know, part of what makes Georgia special is this game. So when you look at the situation with the two schools and playing in Jacksonville, uh, this is not like um, Georgia's. I mean, dominated might be a strong word, but certainly has won more often lately than it hasn't. And Kirby Smart's been pretty clear that he wants more home games at Georgia, and that he feels like the game in Jacksonville takes away a home game every other year. He's right about that. Um, this past week, his view on it kind of softened compared to what it's been in the past. Now, he would say, "Oh, that's because I'm thinking about the season." I mean, maybe. It also may be that Georgia has just sort of said, "Hey, look, this is a great deal for us. It's not affecting, if Georgia can win a national championship or not. I think that's pretty clear. It's a great spectacle, and there's a lot of interest in South Georgia in this game. I can assure you that there's a lot of interest in the Golden Isles. Anything from Savannah down benefits from this game once a year. All those beach properties in St. Simons, Jekyll, obviously places like Amelia, which are in Florida, Jacksonville. Jacksonville, in about 4 years ago, put a value on the game in terms of economic development. If I'm not mistaken, every single year was like, I don't want to get this wrong. Um, not an insignificant number, $35 million a year to the Jacksonville economic effect on Jacksonville. I mean, that's a lot of money. And I think that to me, um, is a home game at Georgia worth $35 million to Athens? Um, That's a good question, actually. I know Georgia, Florida would be a huge weekend in Athens. There's no doubt. So for me personally, just to be straight up, I would leave the game in Jacksonville. I think you all, I've talked about this a lot, but there's caveats with that too. I think number one, I would never want one person to dictate what that a tradition just changes. And that would be Kirby Smart right here. For all he's done well at Georgia, again, this is a great image of what he's done well at Georgia. I think you got to be real careful. You know, that one person decides that, and that's not how this would go. But he's certainly been the tip of the spear. Number two, if you get away from what you are, then you won't be what you are anymore. You look at Nebraska, Colorado, um, any of these schools who have made real changes, switching conferences, stuff like that. Would this have that kind of effect? No, probably not, but um, it would be a totally different situation than we've ever seen before. I mean, it would be the equivalent of Texas and Oklahoma not playing in Dallas. Um, so it's so much a part of what Georgia is to turn your back on that. I don't know. Now, for a long time, I did feel like uh, there should be consideration given to moving the game. Um, but the problem with that is, and this is just the truth, it would become just another big home game. It wouldn't be special. And again, I'm not the head coach at Georgia, but I've covered Georgia longer than he's been the head coach. And even though he's been a player and been around, and I think he would agree with this, um, there is no bigger feeling, certainly in a regular season, than Georgia beating Florida. There's no bigger thrill for the fans. Um, I can give you data. I have 22 years of data that proves my point about this. This is the biggest week of the year, period. Um, and it's every year. So would that change if the two schools went, if Georgia's playing in in Gainesville? Yeah, it would change. I mean, it would still, I mean, Tennessee, Georgia is a big game. It's not a rivalry, not like Tech and Florida and Auburn, but it's a huge game. And, those schools are not going to play one another in the future. And I think that, and not every single year. And I think that you want to be careful switching out of something that people have really grown up with. And in 96, when CBS first broadcast this game, at 3:30, every year since, with the exception of the 2002 game, this game has been a nationally telecast game on CBS. It gets huge viewership and ratings, and you don't want it to become Michigan State. This is appointment television. This is Texas Oklahoma. This is SC Notre Dame. This is Auburn Alabama, for lack of a better term. Now that's the positive part. Kirby. The other thing is, A, Kirby's not wrong. B, Kirby doesn't even deal with half the stuff that we do when we go to Jacksonville. All right. There's a lot of problems around the facility. Um, for a long time, the facility itself has treated this game like, well, that it's not special, and it is special. And if you're from the city of Jacksonville and please listen to me here. I'm not saying this out of spite or anything like that. I've worked in municipal government. I understand kind of I'm not new to this game. And this game is not treated like it's a special event. I'm talking about around the facility, inside of the old Gator Bowl. There's it's when you go to the kickoff game with the Peach Bowl, that's a big event. They're handling it a particular way. This is not like that at all. That may be a media problem, but well, guess who's talking right now to hundreds of thousands of people? Me, the media. B, the getting in and out of Everbank is a train wreck every single year. It is not easy to get into. It is not easy to get out of. It's a mess. Um, it makes you reconsider every single time. Is this the right thing? Okay. Some of that, there's nothing Jacksonville can do about it. I mean, the stadium's where it is. It's on a peninsula. I mean, it's just what it is. But I do feel like there is a particular, I think the part, if I were Jacksonville, that I'd be really worried about is that this is my opinion. It feels sometimes like they feel like they're entitled to this game. And they're not. You know, Florida, I think, will always kind of want this game in Jacksonville, no matter what. Florida doesn't have to really travel. All right. But for Georgia, I'm just saying it's a whole ordeal. Now, not for the team, but for everybody else involved. I mean, for the 300-ish apparatus of Georgia football, 300 people or so. Whether you're talking about everybody on the team, the everything around the program, Jerry Moorhead, all of them. They are not affected by what I'm talking about. But the every other entity, the other 50 to 60,000 people that go to Jacksonville for this game, they're the ones that are complaining. It's not the team necessarily. It's everybody else, and it's a great event. I just think the city should do a better job of it's in the game. Like it's the stadium. It's not taken. This is one of the premier college football games in the country. Period. It doesn't feel like that though. When you're like around the stadium, it does not feel like that. And there's reasons for that too. There's a lot of these parking lots that the stadium doesn't control. I think, and this is a criticism of Florida who runs this game. I sometimes it doesn't feel like. I mean, it's got to be hard not running a game in your stadium, and they do that every single year. I mean, it's cannot be easy for Florida either in terms of putting this game on. But should it change? I do not think so. Should it get better? It definitely should get better, or there will be very little sympathy to keep the game in Jacksonville. And I think that's where it belongs. But I'm not so, naive to think that it can't ever change because it can. And I think that that's the part, if I were Jacksonville, that I would be most concerned about. The most recent mayor in Jacksonville was desperate to get this thing done, Lenny Curry. So much so that he preempted the schools, if I'm not mistaken, if I memory serves correct. He got the news out there before everything was dealt with completely. I also think it's like little stuff like this, like UGA, and the A is the A is little. No one, no one uses that. Why is that? I mean, I understand it's a Jacksonville newspaper. Who the hell calls UGA UG and little a? I mean, like that doesn't. That's not a thing. Nobody calls them that. It's like calling it Georgia Tech University. I mean, come on, get it right. And it's stuff like that constantly. It's just this little stupid stuff. But in reality, though, everything around the stadium is not good. It's not good enough. Okay. Secondly, I would say inside the stadium, as far as the fans are concerned, it seems pretty good. They're finally. I mean, you can get drinks inside the stadium and all this stuff now. But I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff that the media setup is bad there. Okay. Bad. The traffic is bad. There's a lot of stuff that is not good enough. It's better than it was, but it's not at the level that this game should be at. I mean, we're talking Auburn, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, SC Notre Dame, there's Michigan, Ohio State. There are certain rivalries that define college football. Georgia, Florida is one of those rivalries. And there's something missing right now in Jacksonville. And people used to say all the time, it's just Georgia people complaining. Georgia has whipped Florida's ass more often than not lately. So pay attention when you hear people say these things, because it's something to be taken seriously.